Go for it.
The meeting of the South San Antonio Independent School District Board of Trustees will come to order. The special call meeting. Today is August 20th. The time is 6 o'clock. And at this time, could we please have roll call, Michelle?
Mrs. Mandy Martinez. Present. Mr. Luis Ibarra Jr.
Here.
Mr. Homer Flores.
Here.
Ms. Shirley Ibarra Peña. Mrs. Connie Prado.
Present.
Mr. Gilbert Rodriguez.
Present.
Mrs. Ella Flores.
Present.
Thank you, Michelle. At this time, could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, Texas Pledge, prayer, and our call to action?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas Pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Please bow your head in prayer. Lord, we gather today and ask that you would direct and govern all the decisions that are reached at this meeting. Lord, we invite you to be present in all our dealings and decisions and ask that you guide our decisions. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Call to action.
All students enjoy successful education experiences, empowering them to make decisions while enriching their lives and the future they create.
Thank you. Okay, our first item on the agenda is a public hearing. Before we move on to the public hearing, let me just go over our rules of reform. Disruption, the board shall not tolerate disruption of the meeting by members of the audience or individual board members. Persons attending board meetings shall not delay, interrupt, or disrupt the proceedings or refuse to obey the orders of the presiding officer. Any disruption will result in immediate removal of members of the public and possible action of the board to remove disruptive individual board members. Everyone must have a seat. There will be no standing allowed. The use of cell phones and sound-activated pagers are prohibited during meetings. At this time, then, we will move on with our public hearing. Number one is public meeting to discuss the 2019-2020 budget and proposed tax rate. Dr. Flores.
So, we just this afternoon, I apologize for the delay, just uploaded our budget. So, did you get a copy of it?
We ponied it over, but
I got mine.
Have been all.
By phone.
do we have
I
copies?
have some extra
Like
copies.
right
Everybody need to-
when I was getting there, the man was giving it.
We ponied it. It's quick.
Yeah, I have been all.
Do we have the other? Yeah. You do the budget or the tax rate now?
I'm going to go with the budget first. Unless I'd rather do the tax rate first. Yep, let me do the tax rate. It's right there. Perfect. So this is the same tax rate that we've been presenting all along. We're still recommending the M&O tax rate of 97 cents. A little high, there you go. And the INS, or debt service, of 48 cents for $1.45. And then for the budget, we've prepared 3 different looks at board's pleasure of the budget. So this first one, let me see, can you go to the bottom real quick? Let's see which one is that. Mine's not numbered. The one that was numbered, Michelle? Okay, this first one is the one that is, thank you. This is the one that we proposed to y'all at our last budget hearing with no changes. So this is just so y'all can compare what we proposed over there to what we have now. Now, if you go to the next page, thank you. On the next page, this one, go down just a little bit, please. A little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. That one. This one right here incorporates the incomplete projects that we have still ongoing from finishing the different schools. And so what we did is we're going to unencumber those as of 8/31, the ones that do not get paid. And this is the amount that we're expecting not to be paid by 8/31. And we'll re-encumber that amount in the 19-20 school year so we would take this out of this year's budget, the 18-19, and include it in the 19-20 budget. Just kind of like a budget swap.
Includes the projects like the track.
Pardon?
It includes the projects like the track and some of the other outstanding projects that we saw.
And then if you go to the very last one, this one is something else that the board had entertained, was for the proposed stipend increase, and I think Mr. Schuman has that. And that's a total of $108,000. And what we're proposing on that is, as Ms. Prado had recommended, for the additional, let's take it out of workman's comp, a transfer from workman's comp. So, and then that would bring us back to a balanced budget. This one would still be us taking the exact amount for the incompleted projects of the $1,122,000 and the proposed stipend increase if the board approves that. And you'll still walk away with a balanced budget for the 19-20 school year. That's it.
So going into the stipends themselves, because the question was if we could bring back recommendations, I think we have that on there, so I can bring that up. The stipends that we came back with based off of TASB's recommendation was at secondary math and science, $2,000. That will cost $22,400 for each of those classifications, math and science. And then special ed, moved that from, special ed self-contained, moved that from $1,500 to $2,000. The elementary behavior unit from $1,400 to $1,900. Middle school behavior unit, $2,100 to $2,600. And the high school behavior unit from $2,800 to $3,300. The total of all special ed stipend increases would be $8,000. The general master's degree, moving from $1,200 to $1,500. That would cost $32,700, and then your subject area master's degree. So those that are teaching in that field in which they have that degree would go from $2,000 to $2,300, which is a $15,300 increase. That's for a grand total of $100,800 from
I'm behind something, but that page is not on here.
So seven.
Yeah, I know, but she just handed out hard copies.
It should be a little bit.
We'll have it. We'll bring you table side copies, and then there are also Pony at your house.
Thank you.
And then it's posted. It's posted in the board book for future access.
Thank you.
That concludes our hearing.
All right, board members, that concludes the public hearing for the 2019-2020 budget and proposed tax rate. At this time, since it is a public hearing, if there's any members of the audience that would like to speak to either the tax rate or to the budget, you may please do so now. The same rules apply as citizens to be heard. Mr. Williams, you are.
Lining up here.
Ms. Prado, members of the Board of Administration, yes. My name is Tom Cummins, and I'm speaking for the South Stand AFT. And tonight, we would like to thank you for the pay scales that you passed the other day. It's a tremendous leap forward, we think, for the district. We hope it's not done, but we have future acknowledgements to that. Every district has advantages and challenges. And one of the challenges that have always existed in South San is that other districts want South San teachers and support personnel. And South San has been rated for years and years. One of the things that stopped it was South San, for probably 15 years, had one of the best bachelor pay scales, and it had the best master's degree pay scales for probably about 10 years. And teachers stayed, and we had a cadre of very experienced teachers who really kept this district moving forward. And so I think that's a part of the challenge for the next few years, as to how we build on what you've already done, and we're looking forward to that. One of the things is we need to raise more money. And I don't know what a TRE does, and if it's out there, then that's something we would like to support the board should it choose to go that way. The other way is to begin recruiting those students back from charter schools. And the only way to do that really is personal relationships that teachers and schools make with students that have left and need to know how much better the South San schools are. And so we would encourage you to think about programs that would bring that personal contact between South San personnel and charter school families. Thank you. Thank you again for the pay raise.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. I think that concludes our citizens to be heard segment. Moving on to the discussion and possible action. The first item is discussion and possible action to accept the certified appraisal roll for tax year 2019 for South San ISD. Dr. Flores.
Dispenser.
Yes, yes. The certified appraiser roll was prepared by the chief appraiser, Michael Amazzagetti, and it's ready to be approved at the board's pleasure. This is one that's been on the board book for quite some time. This is what we will actually be collecting the taxes on.
That's it?
That's it.
Any questions?
Yeah, usually we get someone who kind of, because a lot of our board members are new and they really don't know what all this means.
Okay.
So it would be good to kind of go over and explain
Sure.
to them what it is we're looking at.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so can you go back up? Back up, okay. Right there. A little up. Sorry. Perfect. So this is the certified appraisal road, all right? And what he's done is he's listed on here all of the values for the market, the agriculture, gross taxable, the value cap on homesteads, and then you have your assessed value. Then he takes off your homestead exemptions, your over 65 exemptions, your disabilities, which would be for your veterans or your residential homesteads. Then you have your Freeport and your absolute exemptions, and then any other deduction. Once he takes all of that, you have your net certified taxable value, which is $1,899,856,386, and then the chief appraiser estimate of uncertain roll. What this is we do still have some protest out there, and so he's got, and this was just as of, what you do is you do a snapshot, they keep changing it periodically, it's going to change very little, but you've got the plus the protested accounts of 76,810,087, and then less zero of the estimated agricultural exclusion, so he cleaned all that up. Protested accounts personal property of 9311407, less the value cap of the homesteads, to 2513,003. So the uncertified assessed value of 83,608,491. Then you have your, the homestead exemption. Can you go down just a little more? Thank you. 5306,750, the over 65 exemption, the disabled veterans, the disabled residential homesteads, your Freeport exemptions, your absolute exemptions, and then you have your net uncertified taxable value, bringing it to 76,397,69. So the net taxable appraisal roll before the tax freeze, and then you have your taxable value of over 65 and the disabled persons that on the frozen taxes that comes off of that. So you actually have your 2019 total taxable value after the tax free of 1,832,965,578.
And that's the number that we use to levy the taxes that was presented in the public hearing.
Yes, for the M&O and the IN.
Board members, are there any questions for staff on the presentation?
I just have one question, if I may. The protest accounts that total 9.3 million, is that from current year, or is that all encompassing for a period of years?
Current year, personal property.
But it could go back multiple years. It's the protest as of right now.
Well, that's true, because if there was something that was lagging, that didn't get, that was in courts or whatever, that didn't get cleared up, it would show on there. Thank you.
I do recall seeing a presentation like this previously that had it broke down by columns and percentages collected. That's how I remember.
And we can get him to come and make a presentation later to the board if y'all would like that. I didn't have him come, I didn't know it was the board's pleasure, and I apologize for that. But we can definitely, I'm sure he would love to come meet y'all and make a presentation to y'all.
I'm sorry, you say him. Who is him?
That's the Michael Amagazetti.
Mesquite.
Thank you. He's the chief appraiser.
Oh, okay.
Let the record reflect Thomas Carroll.
Thank you, I apologize.
Okay. All right, any other questions, Mr. Rodriguez? Any other questions, board members? Okay, if there is none, do I hear a motion for item number 1?
I'll move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Rodriguez. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Peña. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is item number 2, discussion and possible action to accept the effective tax rate and rollback tax rates for year 2019 for South San ISD. Dr. Flores.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Kaiser, once again.
Well, I also didn't ask the tax assessor collector to be here either, and he is the one that prepared this. That's Albert Uristi. Thank you for moving that. This is the 2019 property tax rate, and what he did is I love the way he did this. He has last year's rate reflected on there, and then he's showing this year's rollback tax rate, which this year we can't have a TRE, so kind of irrelevant, but still, it's informational.
Board members, are there any questions on the presentation? None? Okay.
I do. This is the posting that we put out there, correct? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Okay. If there's no other questions, do I hear a motion?
I want to accept the effective tax rate and rollback tax rate.
There's a motion
for 2000.
by Mr. Ibarra. Do I hear a second? Second by Ms. Flores. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 3 is discussion and possible action to adopt the annual budget for the 2019-2020 school year. Dr. Flores.
Ms. Kaiser.
Hi. So, what I have on here is the 3 budgets that I just referred to earlier. We have the one that I presented with without the stipend increase, and then we have the one that only has the incomplete projects in there. And so with the superintendent's approval, we're recommending to do the third one, that actually has the stipend increase and the incomplete projects.
And we'd like to know if you might consider or like to utilize the workers' comp fund to create that balanced budget outside of the project itself under our funded.
Yes,
As
the
one-time
transfer.
cost.
Be 100,000, 108, 108.
100,800.
Thank you.
That's reflected on page 3.
Okay, unless you all have any.
Board members, are there any questions on the three proposals and the attachment? Any discussion on it? Yes, Mr. Ibarra.
On the second page, so the 1,122,694, does that end up leaving a surplus budget in this year's that creates that deduction for next year's?
That's a
I mean,
great
the balance
question.
is out, but as far as how it's going to look on paper.
Good question. I am bringing a budget amendment to the board tomorrow, and that is, what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to take the money out of the 18-19 budget so we can move it to the 19-20. Good question, thank you. That will be a budget amendment brought to the board tomorrow.
And then if we could, I guess this one would be directed to Dr. Flores, are you recommending to pull out that $100,800 from workers' comp? Is that something that you see feasible?
If the goal is to, the board's desire is to have a balanced budget at the, for the 1920 school year, and we are seriously considering doing the increases that have been recommended, this is a viable path that we could use definitely to.
Well, they're compromising workers' comp.
Well, workers' comp still, by taking money away, you still are taking money away, but as we've discussed prior, I mean, our workers' comp fund is well funded at this point, so.
And this doesn't transfer that money either, we'd still have to come back to the board for that transfer.
I'd bring a budget
Correct,
amendment
yeah.
to you.
I mean, this does not trigger the transfer, this would just be the budget of us assuming we get that revenue. So we could wait till the end of the year to see further how we work. We might not need that transfer if we're receiving more revenue or if we have less expenditures come that time.
As Ms. Carter knows, that would be that 7,000, 8,000 for the transfer. Actually, because it's from the, actually transferring from the workers' comp fund to the general.
But the budget itself does not trigger that transfer.
Right.
It would not be instantaneous.
You still have to go from restricted funds.
Right. Okay. I do have a question, if I may. Dr. Flores, at the last meeting, budget workshop number 5, I think you came up, Ms. Kaiser came up with her list of recommendations, how to come up with a balanced budget, and then I had also shared mine as well.
Right.
And the direction is to go back and incorporate these to come up with a balanced budget. So am I assuming on your number 3 recommendation, does that include both recommendations that were incorporated to get this done?
Right, that wasn't something that Ms. Kaiser really worked on, because
And what I did was I took your recommendations and what we did and just between the, I did the differences per function and got it as close as I could. I didn't use all yours, didn't use all of mine. I mean, we just kind of like did a mix, and we still have a balanced budget. I am still needing a small amount if we do add the stipend, but I didn't know if the stipends would be added or not. So kind of like that. I liked your workman's comp. We'll kind of take, instead of the 300,000, we take the 100,800 out of there. But I did kind of like a difference column between yours and the other, and it was fairly close. We were right on sync, like you said.
Any questions, board members, on the presentation?
Yeah, I do, if I may.
Yes,
So,
Mr. O'Day.
at the previous meeting, Ms. Kaiser called out some proposed adjustments,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
Some adjustments to how to balance the budget. So you went by function, these are function codes, but I remember seeing 6,300, 60, those. So how do I know, or how do we know which ones of those were incorporated or were they not? And That's not reflected here, that's what's.
It is not reflected there. It is by function. I went back and did do it by function again. I was isolating by function. We already know that we have employees that we're not going to be, positions we're not going to be filling, and so a lot of it will be out of salaries, but I didn't bring the exact where it came from out of the object codes.
Right, but
Yes.
if I may, I anticipated seeing what we saw at the last budget meeting where you guys were collaborating on,
Yes,
giving take on the numbers.
Yes.
I was anticipating seeing that to see where.
Well, she did function is why I only did function. I thought that she would go, leave it to our best interest to where we would take it out under the object code. I just assumed the board knew that we
Oh,
had
no,
best interest.
I entirely understand that.
That's why I did.
I don't have visibility into that, I guess is my.
Right, and I apologize. The only reason, y'all know I'm very, very transparent. If I would have known that that would have been something y'all would have, that would have behooved y'all to see, I definitely would have brought it, and I apologize. I just was trying to think on the same term that we were talking about the functions and trying to get to that.
Right.
So, and we're balanced. I feel very strong about every function that we have in here. If we do need to increase a function, I have no problem with coming back to the board and explaining why y'all would need to increase it. Or if we're going to, if I see that we are not spending it in another function and we can move it to a function where we need it, I'll bring it to the board and I'll show them, hey, let's take it out of here, let's move it down here. It's y'all's money, and I know y'all have the best interest of the children at heart, so we're just trying to make y'all's dream come true.
Yes, ma'am.
More questions?
Yes, just one for Dr. Flores. I know we've talked, or during the course of the budget committee and in the budget workshops, we talked of presenting the board detailed budget, and I know there was some difference on what does a detailed budget encompass. I would have, again, I anticipated seeing something from a minimal standpoint, broken down from function and then the subcategories under there, so we can see, when we talk about visibility and transparency, is that something that we are going to get?
Right, so if you're asking to get something like with fund function and then object code,
Yes, sir.
that's broad enough to where we can still operate. If you go by line item specifically, then everything's handcuffed to where we can't operate.
Right.
Okay?
No, I totally understand.
Right, and so when you approve the budget, it's best practice to approve by fund and function because it does provide us the flexibility to operate as needed. I know that we've had plenty of discussions about where the monies are coming from and what they're being used for. So that's why in our recommendation, if we approve it by fund and function, it provides us the most flexibility to continue to work within the parameters that it's a balanced budget, which we're looking for as well.
Yes, sir.
That's the best explanation.
Yeah, no, I don't need to know, I don't think I need visibility into all the way down the tree on the code,
Right,
just to
right.
see the function and the objects of the series,
Right.
which is what we've been getting at. That's what I would hope to.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's something that we've already brought before.
Yes, sir.
I mean, if it's going to make a difference between approving the budget or not, if the end result is still having a balanced budget, we could always come back with our budget amendments and everything else that we bring regularly that does include the object code.
Definitely.
And so the details are there at the end of the day.
That was all.
And I'll be honest, I would have even had a computerized one, but we had so short a time, we ran out of time crunch. But really, I think that this, I'm very, very happy with this budget. I think it is something that we can, sustain for a while. And then, like I say, any kind of modification that we need, I feel very comfortable with bringing back to y'all and explaining to y'all any kind of modification that academics or maintenance or anybody might need.
And you can expect our quarterly budget reports or any amendments to include the object as well.
Yes,
Design.
definitely.
Does that conclude your?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else have questions on the budget? Ms. Flores?
Just making sure, when it comes to the instructional piece, what was passed at last week's meeting for the compensation plan, that's all included
Yes, ma'am.
in every one of these
The
options.
same page that was given to us is what we used to.
Okay. And the only difference with recommending option 3 is that it includes the proposed stipend increase.
Yes, that was the only piece that we said that we agreed with.
Right, okay. That's all, just wanted some clarity. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? I do. Dr. Flores, I think at the last meeting, there was actually 3 recommendations to be brought to the board. Besides Ms. Flores' stipends and Mr. Rodriguez, I had also asked to come up with what would be the cost to have an after-school program at Athens.
Oh,
And
sorry.
that has not been, is that just not something that you're going to recommend, or you said
wanna
no,
follow
or?
I can, if you want. We have that actually for tomorrow in the budget amendment, because we asked for a clarifying question if you wanted the 1920 or the 1819.
Well, I think it's understood that it can't be for this year because there's only 2 weeks left for 18-19. So it would have to be for the school year 19-20.
Oh, actually, I did it the opposite. I understood that you wanted it for the 18-19.
Right.
We got a hold of them, and we were able to pay it for the 18-19 that includes the 19-20. I was bringing that as a budget amendment to y'all next year for the program.
The budget amendment's for tomorrow,
Yeah,
for the 1819, that would pay for the entire year.
but we definitely included that.
So it'll come out of the 18-19 budget?
Yes, ma'am.
And it'll cover the school year 19-20?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is that, and what is the cost on that?
It was 65,000.
65,
Right.
right around.
Which was right on par with the same price of the.
Of the other schools?
Yes, ma'am.
And who's going to provide the service? Our own staff?
SAU?
As a youth, usually they'll hire, they offer it to the teachers and if anybody's going to apply. I'll double check on that to see what
I
they're
believe, I
recommending.
believe the organization is SAU, if I recall.
I know we're going through SAU, but I'm not sure who provides. I think that they do use our teachers if they're available, or even,
They provide it first to our staff.
right.
And if it's not based on our personnel, then we may seek elsewhere.
But we
The goal is
contract
always
with-
internally.
Okay. If I hadn't heard anything.
No,
I
it's
apologize,
coming.
that was mine, and I did, we researched all of that, we got everything, and they loved it. They were very excited about it.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that.
So would that, I'm sorry, would that be an amendment to the existing MOU with
It would
them,
it
or?
would be an amendment, well, the amendment tomorrow is an amendment to the budget, and they're just allowing us to do an add-on on the service.
On the existing, on
Yes.
the MOU we just approved?
And
Yes,
that's,
exactly. We've already approved the.
Yes.
and that's going to be on the item on the August amendment that's being presented to us tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yes,
Is that
ma'am.
the
Yes.
one?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So there is still time to make amendments to the 18-19?
Yes, ma'am.
We can do that.
Tomorrow's our last
Last
amendment.
day.
our
Yes,
last day of amendment. Unless we have another meeting next week, then we might bring more amendments. But that's out.
He's kidding. He's kidding.
Oh, next
No,
week.
I mean,
I was looking at my calendar.
Next week.
Bad enough meetings for
We have to close out of our fiscal year.
in finance, we like to have it really close to the.
Right.
We don't have time next week.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
I just have one comment. I think I had not, if it was delivered to the house, no one's at home. I wasn't home all day, so I didn't get this. And I didn't have access to a computer to see it on Boardbook. So this is something we're just now looking at.
Yes.
And there's been a lot of discussion back and forth, so, but I do know that there's, tomorrow's meeting, there is also an item to adopt the budget. So if it doesn't get adopted tonight, we have that opportunity tomorrow to do it. And that was the purpose of putting it there.
Right.
In case there's other considerations, other amendments you thought of, maybe that would be the time to do it. And hopefully we get it adopted tomorrow, if it's not approved today. So are there any other questions on what was presented to you, Mr. Flores?
No, Madam President. I just want to say, just to borrow one of your words, a time crunch. I left the house, it wasn't on there, then I show up here and all of a sudden it pops up. And so I would definitely go along the lines of utilizing the room for tomorrow. But anyway, I just wanted to say.
No, and I totally understand, and that, I mean, I got it on there as quickly as I could, I got all the data from everybody that I could, so, yeah, it just last minute.
All right. Any other questions, anything else on the budget today? All right, board members.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, Dr. Flores
Yes.
recommended
Yes.
option 3, right? Is that the one that you stated?
Page
Page 3.
Yes, because it includes the stipends in it, and then it also offsets whatever we still have pending.
Right.
there's no more discussion, do I hear a motion on this item?
I move to approve the annual budget for the 2019-2020 school year. That's on page 3. That includes the proposed stipend increase.
I have a motion by Ms. Flores. Do I hear a second? Second by Ms. Martinez. Okay. There's a motion and a second.
I would like to make a substitute motion.
Mr. Rodriguez is going to make a substitute motion.
I would like to move that we table this until tomorrow, just so that I don't think that it would do any harm to just go over it, be able to, for me to go home tonight and maybe as well as the other board members as well, and kind of just absorb it a little bit more, since, and I'm in the same boat as Mr. Flores. And I'm in front of a computer all day, and I checked before I left the office, and I had to make some stops and came here, and then I would just feel more comfortable and have the opportunity to review it overnight, and then possibly get it up tomorrow.
Okay. I have a substitute motion by Mr. Rodriguez. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Flores. I have discussion. There was one other question I wanted to ask. I know that we had transferred the money from the workers' comp for the beautiful field that we have now. Did we ever get a final cost on that, on what it actually costs to get it done?
I can speak to that.
It's about $1 million, but we don't have, we have the contract that we approved, but then there's also, there's additional costs with the engineers. There was some additional costs that go into it.
I'd like to get the...
I don't think we have the whole, all of the cost yet.
Yeah.
And that's why we're transferring it from the 18-19 to the 19-20, what had been paid. A lot of that is that million.
So are you proposing transferring over to the 1920? Is that what you're saying?
From the 18-19 to the 19-20, the 1,223,494.
Okay, but some of that has been already expended, right?
That, what has been expended, I'm not transferring. I'll let that over.
Okay, so I guess what I need is how much is left? And Ms. Kaiser, you don't have to give that to me now. It's just a question that came up to my mind. But I'd like to have that if I could
For
before tomorrow's
projects,
meeting.
is that what you're wanting for projects?
For the, specifically for
field.
the field.
For the field. Okay.
So we need to follow up with,
You don't have to do it now. I just I'd like that information.
That was one of the things I was waiting on for tonight, actually, and I still didn't get all the information.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. All right, so we're going to vote on the substitute motion, which is Mr. Rodriguez is to table this till tomorrow's meeting. If I could have roll call, Michelle, on the substitute motion, please.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Martinez?
No.
Mr. Ibarra Jr.?
no,
Mr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Ibarra Peña?
Yes.
Mrs. Prado?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Flores?
No.
Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you. So that's it, right?
That's an
Yeah,
amendment. We need to now vote on the main motion, which is now the table. That's an amendment.
Well, the
The
amendment,
substitute motion is actually an amendment.
okay, so the
And now
amendment
the
was
main
the table.
motion is to table. So we need to take a roll call on the motion to table.
Okay, so Michelle, could I get roll call on the motion on the amendment to
No,
table?
it's now the main motion.
Oh, it's now the
to
main
table.
motion. Roll call on the main motion.
Mrs.
To
Martinez?
table. No.
Mr. Ibarra Jr.?
no.
Mr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Ibarra Peña?
Yes.
Mrs. Prado?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Flores?
No.
Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item number 4 is discussion and possible action to approve the resolution adopting the tax rate for the 2019-2020 school year. Dr. Flores.
And Ms. Kaiser, this is South Avenue.
So, that's
Do you
the,
need the recommendation? We can
Yeah.
help you with that.
that's the resolution to adopt the tax roll. Legally, you have to have a resolution to have the tax rate be adopted by the board. So the resolution actually needs to be read into the minutes if you desire to approve it. At the 97 cents for the maintenance and operations and the 48 cents for the debt service. Thank
Board
you.
members, any questions on the proposed resolution?
That's what we already approved.
Right, this is more of a formality.
Yeah. Okay. Do I hear a motion then to accept the resolution as read? It has to be read into the record. Anybody want to make that motion?
A motion to
Mr.
accept.
Ibarra? Do I hear a second? Second by Ms. Martinez. I think for the record, we should have Mr. Ibarra read it into the record. Is that correct?
Anybody
Oh,
can,
that
you
you
can.
made the motion.
All right.
Mr. Ibarra.
So it says date August 20th, 2019. On this date, we, the Board of Trustees of South San Antonio Independent School District, hereby levy or set the tax rate on $100 valuation of the district for the tax year 2019 at the total tax rate of $1.45 to be assessed and collected by the duly specified assessor and collector as follows: 97 cents for the purpose of maintenance and operations, and 48 cents for the purpose of payment of principal and interest on debts. Such taxes are to be assessed and collected by the tax officials designated by the district. This tax rate will raise more taxes for maintenance and operation than last year's tax rate. Adopted this 20th day of August 2019 by the Board of Trustees. And then it has a signature for Connie and a signature Connie Prado, Board President, and a signature for Shirley Peña, Secretary.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second on the resolution. Discussion, Mr. Rodriguez.
When it says here, this tax rate will increase, will raise more taxes, does that mean more revenue?
Statutory requirement of the state.
I understand.
Statutory requirement that is factually not true.
It's not true, but it's just.
Okay, everybody hear that? We're not raising taxes,
Right.
we're raising revenue.
It's still the same overall total tax.
The requirement that the legislature requires to be in this motion, but factually, so you don't have any option not to do it, factually,
Okay.
it doesn't raise more revenues, local tax revenues than last year, because the rate went down.
Right. Okay. I just want to be clear.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Ibarra Jr.?
Yes.
Mr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Ibarra Peña?
Yes.
Mrs. Prado?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Flores?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
I hear a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Hope to
Thank
have
you.
dinner with
Meeting
you
is
guys. You're welcome
adjourned
to go
at
by.
6:41.
It's in the